God, you've got 3 days to let me know what to do. And that was that. And I was going to work at the country club, and he goes back to walk back to his golf cart, and he stops and he turns back around to come towards me, and then he stops and he goes back to his golf cart and he sits on it, and then he gets up from the golf cart and he comes over there to me and he says, Angela, I just had to tell you something.
This has to be one of the most supernatural testimonies I have ever witnessed. Watch it with me.
I was just sitting in my bed, and I remembered something. And this is a story that I haven't shared on here, and I just felt like I needed to get up and I needed to tell it. Like, I ain't having time to put makeup on or prepare for this in any way, but it needs to be told, and it's for somebody. So in 2002, in January of that year, my biological father committed suicide on my birthday. Crushed me. In February, I lost custody of my daughter. In March, I lost my job. In April, I was about to be evicted from my apartment and lose my car. And I had not spoken to my parents or my family in like 6 months, and I was heavily addicted. In April, I also got pregnant from a one-time thing, and I didn't know what to do. But I remember thinking and having this overwhelming feeling like, this is not going to work. I can't have this baby. I can't even take care of myself. I've lost custody of the one child that I have. My parents don't speak to me. There's absolutely no way that this is going to work. And so I scheduled an abortion because that made sense to me. It made sense to let this child stay with Jesus. Was my thinking. Let this child stay with Jesus and not bring it into my crazy life, because my life was in shambles, absolute shambles. I was so addicted. I was losing everything. I had no support because my life was a wreck. So I scheduled an abortion. And I remember a few days before the abortion was supposed to take place, I just remember falling on my knees in my apartment because I was so scared, like, what if this is the wrong decision? And I remember telling God, I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I don't know if this is the right decision or not. Like, is this wrong? It just almost seems wrong to let this baby come into my life, to already put it at a disadvantage, or to just let it stay in heaven with you where it's beautiful and peaceful and it won't have to come into my mess of a life. I was like, but I don't know what to do, God. And so you've got to let me know something one way or the other. Like, I need to know in my heart what to do, because right now I'm mad and I'm angry and I don't want this baby. And I'm pissed off that I have this decision to make now. So God, you've got 3 days to let me know what to do. And that was that. And I was going to work at the country club for a golf tournament, and nobody knew I was pregnant there. Nobody knew that I was struggling with this. And so I would sit at my tent, and when people would come, I would give them their drinks and we'd make small talk. And then when it would leave and I would have a moment to myself, I would just put napkins under my eyes and I would just start crying because I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden there's a guy that comes up, and he comes up to me, and I had worked for him a couple years ago and hadn't seen him in a couple years. And he walks up to me and he gets his beer and he goes back to walk back to his golf cart, and he stops and he turns back around to come towards me, and then he stops and he goes back to his golf cart and he sits on it, and then he gets up from the golf cart and he comes over there to me and he says, Angela, I just had to tell you something. Like, I don't know if this is the right time or place to tell you this, and I almost didn't think about telling you because I just got a beer and I didn't want you to think that I don't know what I'm doing or that I'm being a hypocrite. He was just like, but I just had to let you know. He was like, I've really been praying for you lately. Like, you've just been on my heart. And when I tell you, have you ever seen Mortal Kombat? You know, where they get like this ball of energy and they just like, whoa, and they just shoot it at you. It felt like a literal ball of energy hit me right in my chest and just went out. And it felt like in that moment, God was saying, Angela, if I've put you on his heart, somebody that doesn't see you every day, somebody that hasn't seen you in years, I haven't forgotten about you. I still see you. I still know what's going on. Like, I'm working instantly all the hate and all the fear and all the anger that I felt towards this baby was gone. And it was as if God was saying, Angela, when Moses stood at the Red Sea, he had no idea how he'd get across. He didn't know it was impossible. Like, he had no way to get across. All he had was, his only option was me. Angela, this is your Red Sea. Your only option right now is me. If you'll just let me work and let me do something, I'll part this Red Sea. I'll get you and this baby across. And so I just looked at him and I started crying. I was like, you have no idea how perfect your timing was. You have no idea how bad I needed to hear this. I quit. I quit. That was it. I told the guy at the country club, like, I'm going home. And I remember I got in my car and I went and sat in the parking lot at Hibbett Sports and I just wept. And I was like, okay, God, if we're going to have this baby, you need to prepare my parents' heart, because I'm absolutely terrified to tell them. Like, you just have to let them know, because if they freak out, I'm going to freak out. And I waited 3 days. And 3 days later, I drove up to my parents' house for the first time in 6 months or more. And I walked in and my mama looked at me and she said, Angela, what are you doing here? And I was like, I just needed to come see you. And so her and my little sister sat down at a table and we just started talking, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I just blurted it out. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. And my mom slaps the table and she looks at my sister and she said, what did I tell you? And my sister looked at me and she said, Angela, 3 days ago, Mom was sitting in her room and I heard her just like groaning and travailing and interceding for you. And she got up and she came into my room and she said, your sister's pregnant and she's thinking about not having this baby, and we've got to pray for them because God has a plan and a destiny for her and that baby, and she's thinking about ending that baby's life and we have to stop it. And she said, and we just started praying and praying. And it was at that moment that I was at the country club thinking about this abortion I'm going to have in 3 days. And at that moment when that guy, Jody, came up to me and he was just like, I've been praying for you. And when God was like, this is your Red Sea and I'm going to part it if you'll just let me. If you'll just let me take control of this situation, I can make it work. That baby is 21, almost 22 years old today. I still had a lot of work to be done on me. But God made a way for all of us. My faith was this big. I had this much. I had just an idea, just a thought that it might be possible, that God could make it work. It was just this much. If you're in that situation and you just have just this much and you think it might be possible, that God could make a way, that it could work out, you take that and you run with it. And you give him the opportunity to show up and show out in your life and just show you that he is a God of working the impossible. That's what he specializes in. If he'll do it for me, he can do it for you. I hope you guys are blessed, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day.
There's no such thing as an accident in the kingdom of heaven. There's no such thing as just a coincidence. No, if only you understood the hands of Christ that are extending so much more than you realize. He said in Matthew 17, in verse 20, I tell you the truth, if you just had faith as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. I remember the day when I had a very supernatural encounter, yet at the time I barely recognized it. I was sitting at the pizza restaurant with a couple of friends of mine. There was a family there who I got talking with, who he actually had seen my YouTube channel, and he mentioned it, and we got talking. And as I'm walking away to my car, God tells me, he says, tell that man that he has more of an influence than he realizes. Just one sentence. That was all that I heard. I went to him. I said, sir, I shook his hand. I said, you have much more of an influence than you realize. And I left. I didn't think much of it. I was thankful to have met them. Little did I know, it was months after this that I got a message from his wife, who told me that he had been struggling with an alcohol addiction, and it was ruining their marriage. It was ruining their family. But since that moment, that word that I had shared with him made such an impact that he soon thereafter completely dropped alcohol and never picked it up again. and their marriage was saved, their family was saved, and it was a glorious story. Little did I know, all I had was just a little sentence. And I questioned whether or not I was even supposed to share that with him. I questioned whether or not I was going to scare him or run him off or weird him out. But simple obedience is all it takes to walk in the supernatural. It's humility. It's where we give ourselves to our Father who knows us. Listen, I have a very important request. Will you pray with me for my friend? She's 9 years old. She's been in the hospital for almost a month now in a coma. A brain tumor has aggressively attacked her brain, her spinal, and she's on the brink of life and death. Will you please pray with me for her? Her parents have had to completely lose a lot of things. They've gone through so much. This little girl overcame cancer when she was 6 years old, and that same cancer came back. I wouldn't blame her for staying in heaven because I know how glorious it is, but I believe that hope is not lost. I believe her life matters, whether or not she's blinking her eyes just yet, whether or not she's breathing on her own. I still believe her life matters. And the truth of the matter is that it's an enormous toll on her parents, also financially. And I wanted to really bless her family because they're going through such a financial burden right now. Their medical bills are crazy. She's just had to be continually on these tubes. And so I actually wanted to give you guys an opportunity. If you want to help this little girl, she's so sweet. She's so precious. If you want to help her, guys, if you want to help her family cover her medical bills, you can click the link down in the description below.